Good to go. Jolly good. Right. So welcome, everybody. This is, I think, our year's anniversary of doing this on Zoom. So thanks, everybody, for sticking with us. Zoom, of course. Okay, so there are 5 of us on the team here bringing the event to you today. There's myself, Simon. We've got Linda, Chris, and Dave, and Gareth on the Zoom today. So, essentially, we are here to, if you haven't been to a Vmware before, right? So, this isn't really an official kind of VMware sponsored event or anything like that. We are essentially a group of VMware users out there to really find some interesting content and share it with you guys. So, we do put a lot of effort into making sure that the content we present here is not a sales pitch, for example. We try and keep it as technical as possible and make sure it's interesting and relevant because, again, we're not here with any kind of agenda. We're not here to sell anything. One of us does work for VMware, but we are essentially here as volunteers because we're interested in the community and sharing interesting content.
I have to ask, why was Gareth excluded from your 2 meters zone? You had him about arm's length at least.
Oh, the reason is because I can't fit him into my diagram without messing me up.
You need a session on PowerPoint presentations.
It's funny, I think we've got one today.
Yeah.
So technically the official reason is there are 4 on the committee, which is Linda, Dave, myself and Chris. Gareth's helping us out here. Gareth is obviously on the official committee for the UK, but he's doing a sterling job of helping us out with London here. So we are very
I was only teasing. There's no official excuse.
And we are very grateful because despite doing this for a year, it's still not the easiest thing to do. Just in terms of some rough practicalities for today, we really want to set the expectation that everything we say here is for public consumption. We are going to be recording the sessions here today, and they'll be available on our YouTube channel in a couple of days. So it'll take us a little bit of time just to chop the video up and get it uploaded. But just do bear in mind, we are sharing the content, so potentially questions and things like that from some of the sessions will make their way into the recording. So if you've got something you want to ask privately or don't want recorded, then maybe we can do that in one of the breaks or in the chat sessions a bit later. We're all a year into this whole working from home malarkey now, so I guess you get it, but please do make sure you mute yourself, as not all of us can work the mute button correctly, myself included. But it is frustrating for other people when there's a whole bunch of noise on the line, dogs barking, toilets flushing, etc. Likewise, if you have some problems hearing a speaker, I think in Zoom terms, it's more likely, unfortunately, going to be your end unless we've got a systemic problem. If you do have a problem, stick it in the chat. All of us that are running the event are here online, and we'll try and do as much as we can to resolve any of those kind of problems as we go on. And likewise, if there's something you come across or someone's, saying something you find offensive, again, please do let us know, because we want to make sure this is as inclusive as possible event. If there's something you see you don't like, please do call it out and let us know. We do use the #LondVMware Twitter tag, Twitter hashtag. Despite our kind of ongoing poll of people that use Twitter and declining numbers or whatever, it does, we do get a lot of interesting feedback via Twitter, and we encourage you to interact, send messages, etc. via the #LondVMware hashtag. So this is as part of the London event, we normally put on 3 events in London, then we do our big national event, which has been at the Motorcycle Museum or the Space Centre in recent years. Now, obviously, this is our second London event here. We've got one more on the 15th of July. That is more than likely to be this same format, although obviously we'll keep an eye on what the government regulations look like a bit closer to the date. If things are starting to open up again, we'll try and make a decision of what we're going to do on that. I suspect that it's probably going to be online, but so we are watching government announcements and really what we're able to do very closely. We are also still intending to run our national event on the 25th of November. Platform TBC, if we are going to do it online, we will probably do it via one of the same mechanisms we used last year, which is a kind of online conferencing facility. Again, depending on what happens with COVID regulations, etc., if we are able to put something on in person, that is something we are keeping an eye on. We are probably going to do a bit of a poll a bit later, really, just to kind of see, gauge interest for doing something in person. You know, if people are more interested in doing an online thing, then that's absolutely fine. But we'd just be interested in your feedback. We haven't yet decided on our 2022 dates, but again, if you keep an eye on vmware.com/London, we'll make sure those dates go up there as soon as possible. Speaking of our national event, I mean, for those of you that haven't been before, obviously this was when we did it as an in-person, face-to-face event. You know, we had a fabulous venue, which obviously we weren't able to do last year, but that tiny URL at the bottom, so tinyurl.com/UK-vmug-video, will get you to our YouTube page, and there are video recordings there actually that go back a number of years from the national event. So we try and run that as close as possible to the middle of England, so as many people as possible can attend. You know, we've had up to 500-600 people at that event in past years, and there's some really cool videos there. And there's a lot of that, despite some of the product version numbers moving on. There's a lot of things there that are still not necessarily entirely product focused. We've got some soft skills stuff there, and there's still a lot of interesting content. If you look, in fact, at the number of views for even kind of Duncan sessions and Joe Bagley's keynotes in the past, there are, people are still watching them, and there's still of value and some quite interesting stuff there. I do try and look between our events at some of the recent announcements. Now, obviously, our last meeting wasn't that long ago, so there's not necessarily that much going on in VMware terms. So, but obviously, VMware is still looking for a replacement for Pat Gelsinger. VMware did announce their financial report. I think it's safe to say you all gave VMware a metric ton of money, which was good. That's good to see, particularly in current times. I do have kind of a bizarre hobby of looking at the VMware press releases and the titles they give and the amount of content they have. So, these were two that kind of piqued my interest in terms of what was there. I think I basically took what was almost a 6-page brief press release, boiled it down to this, and I tried to boil the two down. So the multi-cloud piece, I think really there's some interesting support expanding for cloud health into the 3 kind of major hyperscalers. One thing I did find particularly interesting, if you've not looked at vRealize Network Insight before, it's actually a really cool tool for visualizing traffic flows. That now has support for the VMware instances in Azure and Google Cloud Platform. So, similar to the VMware on AWS proposition, where you are running ESX or vSphere servers in hyperscaler using their hardware and essentially renting that equipment to run a VMware platform on. vRNI now supports those platforms. Now, you would wonder why that wasn't there from day one, and the reality of that is that those hyperscalers and VMware have had to do quite a lot of custom glue in between behind the scenes to make the network virtualization work in a way that's compatible with a lot of the ways we do traditional on-prem networking. If you think, hyperscaler networking does work, it is all really geared around SDN and is very much a kind of software-defined configuration. There's been some integration on the back end, so you can now use some of those tools. So, some really interesting opportunities there. The other one that particularly piqued my interest was about VMware infrastructure being developer and AI-ready infrastructure to advance digital business. I mean, whoever makes the titles up of these press releases, solid round of applause there. But I think if you boil down again the multi-page press release, I think really what they're saying is the NVIDIA AI Enterprise suite of products is actually now certified on vSphere 7. Why do you care? Actually, I think it's quite interesting because they've got some quite cool technology there for GPU sharing. If you're doing any kind of machine learning on AI type stuff on VMware infrastructure, if you kind of look into this space, GPUs are where the kind of the compute innovation is really happening. So that gives you a really interesting opportunity to kind of build a virtualized platform if you're doing that on-prem. HCI Mesh, I thought, was also an interesting topic, which really looks to be able to offer services between vSAN clusters in a data center, so service-to-service type interfaces. There are some interfaces with Cloudian, which now allows you to basically mount S3 blob stores and make them accessible to your kind of on-prem VMware platform. So kind of in between gateway to some public cloud hyperscale type infrastructure. So again, something that's quite interesting. If you go on to the VMware press release site, whilst these press releases are really wordy and not necessarily particularly interesting. If you scroll to the very bottom, there are some links there to actually some quite cool blog posts which go into the reality and the technical product side of this in a bit more detail. So I'd encourage you to go and check those out. So for today, this is what our agenda looks like. So first up, we've got Sam talking about some DevOps practices for the VI admin. We've then got a break. So what we'll try and encourage people to do is, if you, like we did prior to starting here today, if you want to turn your camera on, get yourself a drink, we'll have a bit of a chat, and we'll try as best as possible to emulate the experience we had face-to-face at Tech UK, or as our face-to-face venue, as best we can in Zoom. After that, we've got Chris Lewis up talking about migrating vRealize automation. We're then going to have a lunch break. This is a bring your own lunch affair, I'm afraid. So if you want to grab your lunch, you can come back and eat at your desk. You don't have to, but it's again, we'll try and have as much of a kind of informal chat as we can during the lunch break. We've then got a session on unified bond management with Workspace ONE. Likewise, then we've got another break. So we've tried to pace these out as much as possible, because as I'm sure you are, as everybody else is, sitting back to back on Zoom meetings all day long can get quite tiring. And then we're going to close out with Kev Johnson and our very own Gareth Edwards giving a presentation about presentation. So there you go. That doesn't get much more meta than that, does it? But I think it's just kind of one of those really useful soft skills. And as you can see, I'm certainly no professional presenter, so I shall be attending that myself. And then we're going to close at 3:45. Then we're going to aim to finish up formally at 4 o'clock. And then we're going to turn the camera. We'll flip back over to we'll kind of do a virtual VBeers, a virtual VBeers. We obviously can't go to the pub, just because it's not open and we're all at home. And we'll try and, if you want to grab a coffee, drink, whatever you want to drink, if you're up for drinking a beer, then feel free to do so. And we'll have a bit of a chat. I unfortunately have parents' evening at that time, a virtual parents' evening to attend, so I won't be there for the first part, but I'll try and get back on as soon as I can after that. Pretty self-explanatory. No sponsors required for today because we're all here. So I've updated this slide from the one I normally use. So Vmug isn't here to sell you anything. Vmug does sell one thing in terms of the Vmug Advantage subscription, which is so on first glance, if you look at the website, I don't know about you, but I read that as $200,000 a year, which absolutely is not $200,000 a year. It's $200 a year subscription. Gets you a whole bunch of discounts to events, but I think the bit that is, for me personally, most interesting is you get access to training licenses, or what was formerly known as eval experience. Gets you a full 365-day eval license for vSphere, NSX, and the other products that go with it. But I thought it was quite cool that now includes Tanzu Basic. So if you've been watching a lot of the VMware content coming out, you can now get your hands on and actually do some stuff with Tanzu. Does also give you licenses for Fusion and Workstation Pro. So if you've got a Mac or a PC, gives you a desktop virtualization product to use there. So just to try and get a bit of engagement going, this was obviously census month, so I assume you all filled out your census form as accurately as you could. So I thought it would be quite interesting. What I'd like you to do is to tweet what you thought was more interesting to put in as your job description into the census form. So my example, draw a PowerPoint and answer daft questions. If you want to tweet what you would, the funniest reply I think you could think of to what your job description is, if you can do that and tweet that with the LundVmug hashtag, we'll keep an eye on that during the day. And I think we've probably still got some prizes we can give away. So I think we'll keep an eye on that. Best one is going to win a prize. This is my kind of my traditional encouragement moan. So we do a lot of work trying to find people with interesting content. Now I have to say, to me, the most interesting content is content that comes from people who are out there in the field working with vSphere technology, end user, consumer type space. So we have this perpetual call for papers running, and you'll see the URL at the bottom of the page there, and I will put it in the chat on Twitter a bit later. What we like to try and do is to get people to submit sessions. You honestly don't have to have the most fully formed up idea for what your session is going to be. if you just got an outline of something you think that you've done and would be quite interesting to talk about, please do feel free to submit it, and we'll follow up with you. You know, we're there to offer you support as well and help putting a session together. So, you know, if you are, you know, even after watching Kev and Gareth's session at the end of the day, if you're not feeling you're the most confident or seasoned presenter, you know, we're here to help you, right? And we are more than happy to do dry runs of sessions and really try and get you in the place you need to be to come and present. So again, I just encourage you to kind of log your ideas there, and we'll be in touch for a future session. So with that, that's kind of the end of my my random ramble. So I'm going to hand over to Sam. Thanks, guys. That was really useful, and I'll try and remember some of those tips in my blurb I'm about to make a right old mess of. So one thing I would say on the call for papers as well is it's really useful if people submit their ideas ahead of me, just picking people randomly and bugging them, which is quite often what I do. Right, so let me just switch over. We've got very short closing deck, which hopefully is going to work. So hopefully you can see a PowerPoint slide. So thanks very much. This was obviously our 25th of March meeting. So we have recorded the content here today. So we're going to get that chopped up and put up onto our YouTube channel. So if you follow our Twitter handles, we can certainly let you know once that's available. We are definitely better at doing this than maybe we have been in the past. So, you know, we hope to get it up within the same year. So, and again, you know, for anybody who hasn't seen it, we do have actually quite a large library of video from, I think it probably goes back at least 9 years worth of content that we had there from the UK VMUG. So, you know, typically we normally only recorded events from the national event, but obviously we have the last year's worth of footage from the London meetings, given we've been doing them on Zoom. So you've got all the sessions there to go and have a look at. Just while we were having a bit of a dig around, potentially having to dig out the emergency slide deck when we thought we might be down a presenter, I did find this deck that we put together in 2010. So I thought it might be quite amusing to have a quick look for a quick where are they now for these products. So V-Shield, that seems to be a product that turned into an API that then disappeared. vCloud Director, not that I'm slightly annoyed, it's still a product. Unfortunately, it's no longer recommended for private cloud, but you know, it is still around in the public cloud space, but obviously means it has a much smaller user base than it used to. And does anybody remember the vSphere app for the iPad? That thing that they demoed?
I think
it's back again.
It's back again.
You can use that now.
It's buggy, but it's back.
Yeah, I remember they demoed that and everybody went, wow, that'll be really cool. I will use that absolutely every day. I think I installed it and used it once. I don't know about anybody else.
It's one of those things that sounds really cool, but no one uses.
Yes, I think so. So we obviously ran a competition through the day, given it's Census Month here in the UK, for the best or most amusing job descriptions. So Lawrence, you've won that prize. Lawrence, I'm not sure if you're still on, but if you want to drop me a line with your postal address, I have a pile of high quality VMUG goodies that I will send you in the post.
Excellent, thank you very much.
No worries, so thanks very much. So these are our dates for next year. So, you know, we will be back here again on the 15th of July, same format. I think the sign-in's actually already open for that event, if I remember rightly. The agenda will be getting fleshed out across the next couple of weeks. UK VMUG will be November 25th. Like we said, I mean, based on, I think, what we saw from the poll earlier, you know, if there is some interested in doing some degree of face-to-face, but at least for the UK event, we are somewhat beholden to the kind of overall VMUG organization as well. So we'll take that under advisement and we'll have a look. 2022 dates we will be posting up on the website, and I suspect what will probably happen is closer to the July event we will have a better idea where we'll be for 2022, because obviously that does depend on Tech UK, which is our normal face-to-face venue, and their schedule and their reopening plans. But, you know, do keep an eye on the Twitter handles, and if you have any feedback, please do drop us a line either via Twitter or, you know, email addresses there as well. Kev showed this earlier, so I won't bemoan it too much, but, you know, that is, I've seen someone has already submitted for the call for papers today, which is great, so thanks very much. Anybody else who has an idea, that is the URL to place those suggestions. So with that, I'd like to thank you. Thanks very much. This was been a really good day, I think. So, we try not to make the Zoom day too long, and we like to try and wrap up with something a little bit informal. So if you want to grab yourselves a drink, turn your camera on, and we'll have a bit of a chat. I unfortunately have to drop for a virtual parents' evening, but I will hopefully be back before things wrap up. So thanks very much, everybody. And if I don't speak to you later in the day, I hope to see you again next time.
Thanks, Simon. Thank you for doing
Simon,
that.
you just got to crack a quick V beer before the parents' evening, set the right tone.
Yeah, actually, that would probably not be the most correct. I will think about that. Maybe I'll take the beer to the parents' evening.
That's exactly what I was saying.
Shameless style.
You'd feel compelled to show them that it says 0 on it or 0%.
Yeah.
Mind your sun's out, so it's a nice. We finally got some sun this side.
Oh yeah, it started raining here.
So
if there is an upmarket school, you'll be taking gin and tonic to the parents' meeting.
No, they have it there, don't they?
Yeah, I don't think turning up drunk to parents' evening is quite what you're supposed to do, is it?
They're not going to deliver
myself.
Vodka looks like water in a glass. So.
I like your thinking.
I mean, if you turned up there drunk, then you're probably going to help your kids by setting lower expectations of the teachers, right?